This is our Forex blog for May 20th, 2011, and like most days, you want to find strong pairs and trade them against the weak ones. The dollar's lost its strength yesterday afternoon and pretty much stayed weak until about 6. The weekly trend still is up, but the monthly trend was down. The daily trend shifted down yesterday at noon and pretty much stayed down the whole time. So, that being the case, you want to focus mostly on sells. Starting today off, we had some weakness, very little strength, and it's usually safe to assume that after when a currency is weak and it doesn't have much strength for half an hour to up to 3 hours, that the weakness will continue. So around 12:30, the dollar's getting weak again. At the time, the euro was the strongest pair, so you want to look for euro dollar buys right then. And obviously this trend didn't continue, but at midnight you're looking for buys. The price is above the hourly. It's still inside of a narrow range pattern, so you might have skipped that trade for that reason. Anytime a currency is inside the NR patterns, typically it's very dead and not as likely to trend. But if you did buy that little breakout, it went from about 16 all the way up to 28, and you can see two counter trend sell signals right here. And the triangle oftentimes is the end of the move. We're going to go over that in our regular class. On 5-minute, 15, 30, and hourly charts, when you get a trend reversal triangle, it almost always is the end of the move. We actually got into a buy in our live room today. Actually, I bought the double bottom right here at 15. I got it at 31 for a quick 16 pip profit in about 2 minutes, and some people held it up to the 10-day moving average right here, which was obviously a better place to exit for another 13 pips. Let's get back to the currency meter. So that was one trade. Obviously the dollar's weakness kind of subsided and started getting strong at 5:30, but until about 5:30 it was weak. And you can see the euro was only strong until about 2, and after 2 it was no longer strong. So the pound would have been a good one also to trade until about 2. The Swiss from 1 to about 4 was very strong. So let's look at selling the weak dollar and strong Swiss up until about 4. You can see this one's underneath the hourly right here, and again it was in a narrow range pattern. You only want to take narrow range patterns when they're in the direction of the trend. So if the price is underneath the hourly and it breaks out above the NR pattern, you don't want to take it. But if it's in an NR pattern and it breaks down underneath there, when it's underneath the hourly, it's more likely to go down. You want to look for sells. So it never really happened. And it's not surprising that a breakout here stalled right at the hourly moving average. You can see, it initially had decent momentum for this time of the day. This is all relative for the day. Normally the markets don't move that much here, so these tiny moves show up as, significant. And so when it couldn't get above the hourly, you might want to go short right here when it started to break down. Pulled back about 6 pips. Maybe you made 5 or 6. Came back up again. That strength subsided, and if you waited for the weak bar right here, you go short. And you can see, again, it came down. There's some counter trend buy signals. You might have got out of that trade. This is one of the weakest currencies, and the dollar weak, Swiss strong. So you go short again here. And we had a bunch of counter trend buy signals right at our lower containment band. And guess what? Counter trend triangle. Usually that's the end of the move. In fact, in the dollar CAD today, it nailed the low and the high. Well, maybe it wasn't the dollar CAD. Probably wasn't the dollar CAD, but it did nail the high. Look, triangle, nailed the high to the pip. I think maybe it might have been the dollar Swiss later in the day. Let's look. Look, triangle, nailed the high. Triangle, nailed the low, and then a regular counter trend signal also nailed this low. Phenomenal. I mean, today the trend reversal triangles just were on fire. I don't go over that in our blog that much, but I do in our class. So the Swiss, was strong until about 5. The weekly and monthly trend were up. After about 2 hours of weakness, when it gets strong again here at 8, you can certainly trade that against either the dollar or the Swiss. But it, really the weakest one for the previous few hours was the euro. You might have wanted to trade that against the euro by selling the euro Swiss and looking for an entry around 8. Here's the euro Swiss, and in fact the counter trend buy signal or sell signal right here was around 7. and I don't have our new tool on this chart right here. You go short, and it pretty much fell off a cliff, down 150 pips. You know, the currency meter really spots them. The euro was the weakest one. The weekly and monthly trend of the Swiss was extremely strong. The New Zealand as well. You could have sold the euro New Zealand for a lot of pips too. Let's bring that one up here. This one, when it broke down underneath the hourly, it fell from about 80, 85 all the way down, you know, to 78.50. Crazy 250 pip move. You know, very clear with the currency meter. Super strong in this one. This was the weakest one. Now the euro and the dollar and the yen were, you know, had brief amounts of weakness and then strength. The weekly trend was very strongly down, the monthly trend up. That obviously makes it harder to trade when, you know, different time frame trends are all going in different directions. But if you see the weakness, get less, and then a little bit of strength here, and then a lot more. Usually, you know, it's pretty safe to assume that, you know, it might have strength for another half an hour to hour and a half. So at 5:30 right here, if you started looking for yen buys, which one would you do it against? Well, the euro obviously is extremely weak, and I would prefer the euro over the Swiss because the Swiss has a weekly monthly trend that's up, and also the CAD. So actually, the CAD at that time wasn't weak until 7. So at 7, you could be looking for some CAD yen sells. But before that, we're looking at euro yen sells. Let's bring that one up. And you can see when the price was above the hourly right here and failed and broke down, that was really the beginning of the trend. You know, this Fibonacci area should have acted as support, but it didn't. So when it came back up here and retested the previous month's low, breaking the previous days, weeks, or month's low is a very big sign of weakness. Decent place to go short, and you can see as it came down here, kind of lost its weakness, and you might have gotten out of that with 25 pips. Came back up again. After this one extremely strong bar, these next 3 bars right here, excuse me, have no strength whatsoever. So at a resistance area, lost its strength, great place to go short, and you don't know how far it's going to fall, but I would, in getting into this trade, have this as my profit target right here at 22. You're likely to make, you know, 20 something pips. And if it breaks that area, or it has an incredibly strong, or I mean in this case weakness, you hang on until, you know, the market shows some counter trend signals and the weakness disappears and starts to reverse. You might have got out of that trade down here at 72 for about a 70 pip profit.